You will always be a parasite living off your mother in your parents' house. As the eldest son, I will take over the management of the company. Get your things together and get out of here. You, living off your parents at your age, I can't believe it. Live a more independent life. After my father passed away, my brother and his wife yelled at me. Furthermore, my brother's wife threw water on me from a cup and laughed loudly. Although they don't know, how dare they treat me this way? The designated successor of the company, even before my father's funeral has ended. I can't take it anymore. There is no reason for me to be insulted so unreasonably. I will not let this go. I have vowed to sever ties with these two and retaliate against them by any means necessary. My name is Brenda. I am a 35-year-old company employee living at home. While supporting my mother who overcame a serious illness, I lead a busy life. I had a faint hope of getting married by 28 and having children by 30. But now that I have missed my chance to marry, I have decided never to marry and have become a strong woman living alone. What I look forward to is enjoying a parfait with my mother at a new cafe nearby on the weekends. Mom, shall we go to the cafe this weekend? I heard from the neighbors that they have a new strawberry parfait. Don't you want to try it? That sounds delicious. Let's go. I'm looking forward to it. It seems that my mother also enjoys going out with me. Weekdays are so busy that there is no time to rest, but having something to look forward to is what keeps me going. Then it's decided. We have to do our best until Saturday. And Mom, don't overdo it. My mother underwent heart surgery 3 years ago. At one point, we even prepared for a sad farewell due to a life expectancy announcement, but she has recovered at an astonishing rate and is still with us today. She goes to the hospital every 2 weeks for regular checkups and treatments, and although she takes a lot of medication daily, she's been able to live healthily by making exercise a habit. Brenda, thank you so much. Because of you, I've been able to stay healthy. I thought it was all over at that time, but I'm really glad I worked hard on the treatment. She usually has to restrict her diet, but once a month, the doctor allows her to enjoy whatever she likes. My mother looks forward to using this opportunity for outings with me. You might think it's odd for a 35-year-old still living at home to enjoy outings with her mother, but I am very happy now, and it's precious time for me. My father isn't very talkative, but he always seems to enjoy listening to our conversations. The exchanges between you and Brenda are like a comedy sketch. It's entertaining to listen to. We're just enjoying some girl talk. Why would it be a comedy sketch? My father runs a company and works hard, so he returns home exhausted every day. His routine is to relax on the living room sofa watching TV after having a beer and a little snack. Currently, he delegates some of the work to employees, and it seems he doesn't have as much physical strain as before, but he used to handle everything by himself. I am proud of my father who works hard for our family every day. However, recently he has been having some days when he's not feeling well, and it wouldn't be surprising if he named a successor due to his age, but for some reason he is reluctant to do so. Hey Dad, don't you plan to let Philip take over the company? You seem pretty exhausted, don't you? I have an older brother, Philip, who is 2 years older than me. I've always thought it would be better for my father to hand over the company to someone else. I will never let Philip take over. I'd rather hand it over to someone else than give it to him. Okay, I understand. Originally, my father and my brother did not get along well, and they have been clashing frequently since my brother became an adult. It seems that their relationship has not improved even now. If I let him manage the company, it would be ruined within a month. He doesn't just lack business knowledge, he's also too reckless with money. I can't entrust the company to someone like that, my father said angrily. I had wondered what had happened between them, but when I asked my mother, she mentioned that my brother Philip had some financial troubles during his college years. At that time, the financial situation was tough until the company took off, so I chose to attend a less expensive public high school to support our family. However, Philip attended a costly private school and spent his time playing without working part-time. Even after Philip became an adult, my father asked him several times to help with the company. Why should I help out with such a failing company? You started it because you liked it, so deal with it yourself, he refused. Moreover, Philip repeatedly used the company's money for his nightlife, eventually becoming uncontrollable. It seems my parents didn't want to show me their struggles and had kept quiet about my brother's issues for a long time. I wonder why Philip became so selfish. We raised both the same way, and we didn't spoil him in particular, my mother said sadly. Indeed, Philip was always full of complaints and sarcasm, and had a narrow-minded personality. This year, Philip turned 37 and is set to marry his girlfriend, who is 7 years younger than him, after a long relationship. Just a week ago, I received a call from him saying he would come to greet us. However, he called me instead of our parents. Next week, I'm bringing my girlfriend over. It's a visit with the intention of marriage, so I can't invite her to a messy house, right? So make sure to tell Dad and Mom to prepare for hosting us and tidy up, he said. Why are you telling me this? Why don't you talk to them directly? I didn't quite understand Philip's motive, and his way of speaking was as unpleasant as ever. It didn't sit right with me to relay this, but to avoid a sudden visit without our parents knowing, I decided to tell them the same day. Philip is getting married. He said he's coming next weekend with her for the greetings, so we should clean the rooms and prepare to host them. He should have said it himself instead of asking me. His character hasn't changed a bit, I told them. My parents sighed heavily and were silent for a while. However, my parents hoped that if the marriage went well, he might visit less frequently and spend less money. Let's make sure to handle this greeting properly, as if it were the last, my father said with determination. Then, the weekend arrived and my brother Philip brought his fiancée to our family home. It's been a while. Sorry I couldn't get in touch sooner. I think Brenda told you, but I'm getting married to my girlfriend. Nice to meet you. I'm Holly. Please remember me. Is this a greeting to someone she's meeting for the first time? Is she sane? Is she mocking us? Following my brother, his fiancée Holly introduced herself in a miniskirt and heavy makeup, greeting us with a smug attitude and a smirk. The situation was hardly appropriate for a marriage introduction, and while our family was stunned, Philip seemed completely unconcerned about her, making them a matching pair in a way. Amid the tense atmosphere, my mother tried to lighten the mood by asking Holly, "Do you work somewhere?" which only made Holly angry. Huh? Work? I'm not working right now, but is there a problem? I aim to be a housewife, and I have no intention of working after marriage, so I won't be helping out at your company. Despite no one in the family having mentioned my father's company, she provocatively threw that out. Her words clearly angered my parents and me, but we decided not to stoop to their level and silently endured the situation. After they left, we discussed our feelings thoroughly. What on earth was that fiancé thinking? She spoke as if she was looking down on my company. What does he see in such a rude and presumptuous woman? It's really terrible. Are all people these days like that? I'd rather not deal with her if possible. Of course not, Mom. Don't lump us together with her. That evening, the topic of my brother and his fiancée dominated our dinner conversation, and the three of us agreed to keep our distance from Philip and his future wife as much as possible. Later, Philip contacted us again. It seems that things are progressing smoothly towards the marriage, but they plan to register the marriage first and decide on the wedding ceremony later. Make sure to tell Dad and Mom to prepare a wedding gift early. You're a working adult, so I'm counting on you, my brother said, even pressing me for a wedding gift. To avoid any complaints later, I wrapped a gift amount larger than the usual rate and handed it directly to Philip. Later, I received a thank you call from his wife, Holly, but it was clear she was eating during the conversation. Thank you for the gift. I thought your father's company was about to go out of business, so I'm lucky to have received this gift money, she said. What do you mean by going out of business? My father's company has about 30 employees and is operating without any problems, I retorted, but Holly just laughed mockingly. Unsatisfied with her response, I hurriedly ended the call. Her disrespectful remarks, as if insulting my father, made me very sad. A month later, an unexpected event occurred in our family. I had taken a day off to accompany my mother to the hospital, but our rarely used home phone rang that morning. We were even considering canceling the landline service since we hardly used it anymore, so the sudden ring startled me. Hello, I answered, and it was an employee from my father's company on the line. The voice was very disturbed and trembling. Something terrible has happened. The president suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed. We've called an ambulance, and he's being transported to the hospital now. Could the family please head to the hospital we're about to tell you? My mother, who was preparing for her regular checkup, noticed me pale with the receiver in hand and immediately grasped the situation. Brenda, what happened? Is everything okay? Dad collapsed and has been taken to the hospital by ambulance. We need to hurry, Mom. We decided to take a taxi to the hospital we were directed to. On the way to the hospital, we were overwhelmed by anxiety but continued to pray for my father's safety. Upon arriving at the hospital and rushing to the reception, we mentioned my father's name and were immediately directed to the emergency department. Soon, a stern-faced nurse arrived and said, "Please come this way to the room." She led us to the hospital room. With trembling hands, I opened the door, and there lay my father, who had already passed away. As my mother and I stood in stunned silence, the doctor explained the situation at the time of transport. When the ambulance arrived, he was in cardiac arrest. We tried resuscitation to the best of our abilities, but he never regained consciousness, and unfortunately, this was the result. I'm very sorry. My father had suffered an acute myocardial infarction, and nothing more could have been done. The suddenness of it all made it difficult for us to accept reality, but seeing my father's peaceful face, I remembered how he had worked tirelessly for us every day, and it felt like he might finally be able to rest, which brought me a slight sense of relief. I had informed my brother about the situation on our way to the hospital. "I'm at work and can't just leave like you can. It's probably nothing serious, so don't make such a big deal out of it," he responded coldly before abruptly hanging up. Even after I informed him of our father's death, his insensitive reply came, "I see. Well, that was just his time, I guess. It's better than him becoming an old burden." It was hard to believe he was part of the same family. I felt a deep contempt for my brother. While my mother and I were engulfed in sorrow, time did not stop for us, and we had to proceed with the funeral preparations. During this time, the thought of my father's company suddenly crossed my mind. What will happen to the company? There are employees depending on it, I murmured. Then, my mother pulled out a notebook. "This is a manual for managing the business that your father had been working on for a long time. If you're willing, Brenda, he wanted you to take over the company. What do you think?" The thick notebook she handed me was packed with information and know-how my father had gathered to develop the company. His presence was immense, and the hole in my heart would not be filled. However, once the funeral was over, I would have to face reality. "I'll do it, Mom. I'll try my best." There was no reason for me to refuse. Deep down, I had always felt that someday I might need to take over my father's business. In this state, the funeral was scheduled for the following day. At the funeral, my brother and his wife made an unbelievable statement. "Hey, Brenda, how long do you plan to mooch off our parents and live at home?" "What do you mean by that?" I couldn't understand why they would bring this up at such a time, or why it was necessary to discuss it now. Buoyed by their own fervor, they continued, "You're just a parasite living off Mom. As the eldest son, I will take over the management of the company. Pack your bags and get out of here. I can't believe you, living at home at your age, depending on your parents. Live a more independent life." His wife then threw water in my face from a glass and laughed loudly. I couldn't take it anymore. There was no reason for me to be insulted so unreasonably. I wouldn't let this go. I vowed to cut ties with these two and retaliate against them by any means necessary. "Fine. I'll leave this house." When I declared my decision to leave, they were unnaturally pleased. Now Dad's company and the house will be mine. Plus, if we live with Mom, we can manage her pension. That's right, Philip. What a great idea. We'll be rich, and if you're the president, I'll be the president's wife. Doesn't that sound wonderful? They were gleefully discussing their future. To maximize their discomfort, I decided to keep the fact that I would be taking over the company hidden until after the funeral. Revealing it now would ruin everything. Pretending to be upset, I packed my bags and left the house as they had demanded. During the funeral, Philip pompously told my father's employees, "From now on, as the eldest son, I will be taking over the company. Please support me." Even as everyone was mourning my father's passing, Philip continued with such remarks, completely ignoring the mood of the gathering. "He's hopeless." My mother sighed, dismayed. Only my foolish brother and his wife remained unaware of the entire truth. Even after the funeral ended smoothly, the busy days continued with various administrative tasks. During this time, I noticed over 100 missed calls and messages left on my answering machine from my brother. I decided to answer the next call. "Hey, what the hell did you do? When I went to Dad's company, they told me the next president is his daughter. I haven't heard anything about this. I am the president. I've even quit my job at the other company." My brother ranted in anger, his statements disjointed, showing he didn't understand the situation he was in. He had excitedly gone to the company to introduce himself as the new president, only to be coldly received and pitied by all employees. How could Dad leave his precious company to someone like you who only thinks about himself? And I heard you and your wife are deep in gambling debts. What? How do you know that? I haven't told anyone. In reality, when I resigned from my previous job, I had mentioned taking over my father's company. When you have a sibling, it's a good idea to do a background check. There's often trouble involving money, my former boss had advised me. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, but just to be safe, I investigated my brother and his wife, and the fact that they were swamped in gambling debts came to light. I had you and your wife investigated. How were you planning to repay those mounting debts? Were you planning to use the money Dad left behind? Was that why you wanted to kick me out and move back home? It's shockingly short-sighted. Why? How could this? It turned out that the debts, including those of his wife, had piled up to the point of no return. But I would never allow them to count on Dad's estate. Anyway, it's already decided that I will take over Dad's company. That was his last wish. The lawyer will soon confirm the will, but I don't think there will be a single penny left for you guys. What? That's a lie. Through the phone, I could sense my brother's panic, and I silently celebrated in my heart. Then the call was passed to my sister-in-law, who lashed out at me in anger. Listen here. Your brother is suffering, so as his sister, you should help him. To feel nothing, you have no heart. You're the worst. I could have retorted in kind, but it would have been a waste of time, so I chose to ignore her. Please pay back the debts you created yourselves. It's irrelevant to me and my mother, so please don't contact us again. Your remaining options are to work hard and pay off the debt or declare bankruptcy. Good luck. Goodbye. Wait a minute. Listen to me until the end. I could hear her screaming from the handset, but I hung up the phone. They would now be chased by debt repayment and likely live in poverty for the rest of their lives. It was a fitting consequence for relying on my father's money and not valuing family. If they suffered even a bit as a couple, it would serve them right. Subsequent messages were left on my answering machine a few times. Currently, my brother and his wife have started working at a new factory, but their marital strife continues daily, and it seems a divorce is imminent. I do not want them to interfere in any way as I work to grow the company, so I intend to completely cut ties with them. Thus, my plan for revenge was successfully completed with a sense of refreshing closure.